with all of that, as I was watching this, it really got me thinking. And it really got me contemplating about The Rock and the choices that he's making and just the path that he's been on. And I really want to talk about that for a second here because, look, we've praised The Rock on this pod. We're obviously fans of him. We talked a lot about the stuff he's did with, WWE over the past year or so, some of his other endeavors. And we've talked about his movies before. We reviewed Black Adam extensively on here. I talked about Red Notice a couple of years ago, which is kind of like the twin sister to this movie, just equally as terrible for Netflix instead of Prime Video. And I'm bothered and I'm perplexed by this guy's movie career up until this point. And that's what I really want to focus on as we talk about this. This movie kind of sums up and I think represents just like what he's been doing for the past like number of years. Like if you just go down the list, the past 6 years, I'll just go down from the past 6 years, 2018 till now. He made Rampage, Skyscraper. He had a bit of an extended cameo in Fighting With My Family, Hobbs and Shaw, the Jumanji: The Next Level movie, which was a sequel to the reboot, Jungle Cruise, Red Notice, League of Super Pets, Black Adam, cameo in Fast X, and now Red One. All these movies fucking stink. Let's just be for real. Like these movies are not good movies at all. And it's not like he had some of the best movies ever made before that, but I think he had more enjoyable films that were coming out prior to about 6 years ago. 6 or 7 years ago is when I really started to just like say like, oh my God, this is just like a constant thing where this guy who is universally like one of the biggest movie stars, one of the biggest celebrities alive, easily the most successful professional wrestler turned actor, that there's no comparison. By far, he's the most successful. He's a mogul. He's a businessman. Like you can never take anything away from him in terms of his business acumen. But as a movie star and just the things that he's doing and the choices that he's making, I'm disappointed, to be honest. Like I'm really disappointed. And I'm really thinking about just like the trajectory of his career. He's 52. So it's not like we have like a long runway ahead of us to say like, yeah, his prime is still ahead of him. No, it's kind of not. He's already like been there. And when I look at other guys like Schwarzenegger or Stallone and some of the things that they did, or even like a Will Smith and some of the people he modeled his career after, he doesn't have any good movies to the ilk of what those guys produced, like at all. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, how does that happen? And how do you still become so massive and so big as he is? So I just want to kind of open it up there and we can, talk through some of those things and some of those ideas. But I mean, what do you just make of just like where his career has been and what it's ultimately developed into up until this point?
Yeah, it's been a weird and interesting, ride. And it's so crazy. Like you said, I don't even know how we got here. Because like you said, I think before The Rock did have, I don't know, just different sort of more enjoyable movies that we could all watch and enjoy, or you could point and say, oh yeah, that movie's cool, or that movie's fine. I'm thinking early, right? Like The Walking Talls and all those movies. You're like, oh yeah, Rock, you're cool. And he was in a lot of things. He was in everything. He was like, dang, Rock, you're in this movie and that movie. And I think also another thing that happened is Fast Five is such a good movie that you're like, okay, maybe we're onto something here, Rock. Maybe your stardom can translate into something else, but it doesn't. He kind of, I think the same problem with Black Adam is The Rock's problem in Hollywood right now. Like I have become this such a big superstar that I feel like I can do any and everything as long as I'm in it. Who cares? It doesn't need to have all the, and you said, he modeled his career like after the Stallones and the Schwarzeneggers, and he's not even in terms of quality. Can he keep up? He can't even keep up with Batista. You know what I'm saying? In terms of quality.
Nowhere near Batista at that point.
Nowhere near Batista.
But he's not even going after that though. Like the stuff that he was the stuff that he was going after was the Schwarzenegger Stallone stuff. But when you look at those guys and the movies that they put out, he doesn't have anything to the quality of a Terminator. He doesn't have anything to the quality of a First Blood or a Rocky. Like none of his movies are even that good, even though he did model his career after, I'm such a huge guy. I'm irreplaceable. You can't recast me. There's none of that. Like if I walk away, that's it. But the quality of the films themselves, like there's nothing that's permeating. Like hell, even when Schwarzenegger like pivoted to start to try to do more regular stuff, because he was like huge and swollen. It's like, I mean, you can't ever see like Schwarzenegger being really threatened by anything, and he does a movie like A Kindergarten Cop. That movie still resonates, though. It's still fun, and it's comedy, and it's enjoyable. Rock doesn't have anything like that, and that's where I'm like, what's the disconnect, and what happened here?
Man, he tried. What's that movie? The Game Plan and Tooth Fairy.
Yeah, that was before the rebrand, though. That was before.
Yeah, that's before rebrand.
That was before he became what we pretty much know him as now. And he said he took some bad advice and lost a lot of weight and tried to do some of those family comedies, but they were all bad. Unfortunately, that was the thing. Like, he took a swing at those things and they were bad. And he pivoted to this direction, but he pivoted so hard, like so just directly, and never ever left this lane. I think that's the thing. Like, he's never pivoted, with the exception of Moana, which that's voice work, and that's also like a different animal entirely. With the exception of those films, he's never leaned away from the big gigantic, can't miss actor who's like pretty much like either franchise Viagra for certain franchises, or he's the charming, super well-known celebrity, the unmissable force, that's kind of the anchor for a lot of these big action spectacles that he's been doing.
It's almost like a hard-headedness to it, like you said, though, too. Like, a lot of these movies have not proven to be successful, and I think I do wonder, and I know we've been doing this a long time with The Rock, but I do wonder, is this the time where The Rock is going to start to suffer because of this? Like, is Red One like maybe like something like they can't? I don't know, and I know a lot of people just feel like just don't turn The Rock down. You know what I mean? Like, oh, The Rock, you want to do a movie? Come on in. Let's do Jungle Cruise. Let's do, I don't know, something else. Red Notice. I don't know. I just came up with a movie or something.
No, Red Notice is real. Like, that's a real movie.
Yeah,
a terrible real movie, but it happened.
And it's also weird timing because, again, we're supposed to think The Smashing Machine, his upcoming film, right, with A24, is supposed to be something completely different. It is A24. It is more low budget, right? Because of that. Benny Safdie's directing it, and I guess that's now my new question is like, can it end here? Can Red One be it? Can we like wipe our hands and be like, dude, after The Smashing Machine, if that movie is okay or good, does he move on? Does he say, oh man, this is actually critically, because when was the last time he did something that was actually critically praised?
He hasn't.
You can have all these blockbusters all you want, but like there has to be something in him that's like, none of these movies have ever been critically praised. Like you said, he's sitting in the same theater as Christopher Nolan sat in for IMAX to watch. There's no. If you went, I hope you went back opening day and seen how many people was in your movie theater, bro. Because I turned to you when we first got there and was like, bro, I have never been able to walk through this aisle cleanly ever in this theater. It was nobody in there. It was the most empty I've ever seen that theater. And we've been in there for a lot of like not too many popular movies. That was legit the most empty I've ever seen that theater. And so there has to be something within The Rock that's like, all right, this one has to work. Like, Smashing Machine has to work. But I hope it works in a different way for him where he's like, wait, that thing was critically praised. Maybe I should start working with better directors. I can still be The Rock. I can still be a physical presence. There's still some things in there but like maybe that changes. Hopefully this is the difference.
Yeah, I just it's not too late. Like there's still so much he can still do. Like we see actors who have been extremely successful well into their 50s, 60s, 70s. So like he could still have a completely different type of career if he chooses to. But the star power, the huge wattage around him, the peak of what we've experienced out of him as a movie star, I do think that time has passed for good reason. And Red One, like this conversation was coming up years and years ago. Like, this is not a new thing, and it should not be is this the wake-up call? Like, no, really the wake-up call should have probably been when he left the Fast franchise and tried to do the spinoff stuff. Because the reality is, as successful as those movies are, they're the most successful movies he's been a part of. They're not his movies. Those are not his movies. Those movies belong to Vin Diesel. He might be the best aspect to some of them, but they're Vin Diesel's movies. They're Universal's. They're ensemble pieces. And so when you look outside of that, these other plays that he's made, the Jungle Cruises and the Rampages and San Andreas, is like they make money, or they at least did make money back in the day. But like you said, no critical success there. And they're all just wrote one note, same renditions of what he's done for, the past like 15 years. There was always that meme floating around. I'm sure you saw it, like the 4 different panels of him from 4 different movies wearing the same outfit, like the same like
Same
brown
thing.
button-up shirt in the jungle somewhere. It's like, damn, no, that's legit
I'm
4
The
different
Rock.
movies, but it's the same Rock character. And Smashing Machine, like, he's acknowledged, he had a really good GQ article out, acknowledging that he wanted to do something different and escape into a role, because he's never really allowed to do that because he's The Rock. Like, you can't miss him. Nobody's gonna see that movie. Like, it'll probably be really good. I'm banking on it being really good, but nobody's gonna see it. It's not gonna mean anything significantly towards his star power, right? And if it is like really, really good, and maybe if it does go on and potentially get awards, accolades, and maybe get critically praised for his role, if the performance is really good, that will, I think, have a long-term positive effect, hopefully, on his choices. But just looking at just like where he's at now, like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, it might just be over, and he talks a lot about modeling his career at the time that he made that pivot back, in the early 2010s, before he joined on for Fast Five. He modeled his career after Will Smith and George Clooney. At the time, those were the biggest movie stars. And those are the right people to model your career after. Will Smith, big box office draw. George Clooney, incredibly famous, was doing really, really good films. Also, the business acumen, like he started Casamigos. We see Rocket started Tijuana. Like, a lot of parallels there.
Right.
But again, like, he hasn't made any movies as good as those guys. Even when Will Smith was going after box office success, Men in Black is still good. Independence Day is a pretty decent movie. Enemy of the State, pretty good movie. Like, he was going after box office success, but he was able to still find a way to make those movies work, I think, for a lot of people. And I just don't think The Rock has done that. All that being said, though, I don't want to let Chris Evans off the hook either, if I'm being completely honest here. Because
we shouldn't.
Post Endgame has not been swell to him either. And I'm also just like wondering, like, dude, what's happening here? Because with the exception of Knives Out, if you look at his post Endgame track record, we're talking about movies like Ghosted, The Gray One, or The Gray Man, whatever the hell that was. Pain Hustlers, Bad. I mean, this now, of course, Red One. The best thing he's done that I just watched recently was Defending Jacob, the Apple TV Plus series. That's a really, really good series. But Lightyear was a big misfire. These movies for streaming services, the Netflix movies and the Apple movies, like, they're terrible films. I've seen them all, and they all suck. Like Chris Evans. Also, what are you doing? What's happening here? Like, I know we all got bills to pay, and sometimes those checks are just sweet. Like, I get it. But damn, can we get a nice one in there? Can we get like another like curveball, like another like Knives Out in there at some point? Because it felt like he was on a trajectory when we see him in Rian Johnson's Knives Out, and then he just like went completely the other way that I didn't expect him to.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. Like, I will say, at least like immediately, some of that stuff felt like, I think from an actor standpoint, it felt like it should have been better, if that makes sense. Like, straight out, you do Lightyear. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're working with Pixar. Should have been better. Not a good, you know what I'm saying? Not good.
Well-intentioned choice. I'll give him that. A well-intentioned choice.
Yeah. I think Gray Man is well-intentioned. You've been working with the Russos. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was trying.
I don't know. I don't know if Gray Man is well-intentioned.
You don't think so?
I don't. They probably saw that bag from Netflix and said, well, boys, let's get to work. I don't know how well it's. I know from the Russo standpoint, probably not. Maybe from his standpoint, I might be able to shoot him a little bit of bail. Like, maybe he was like, the Russos, I love them. The Russos were out for that bag, 100%. No doubt about it.
They were definitely out for that bag. But yeah, he's going through it right now. And I think, man, a lot of these people, sometimes I feel like people are their own agents. And they don't have like agents that are like have their best interests at heart at the end of the day, and like trying to elevate them in terms of one, trying to challenge them with acting. Of course, I think that's an important thing for an agent to want you to do, but also get the bag at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, two things have to be true. Yeah, like, I have to push you, and we got to make money at the same time. That's what they're supposed to do. And I feel like The Rock is his own agent. Like, that boy ain't got no agent. He tells you what he finna do. And I feel like, not saying, I don't think Chris Evans is that, but I think I think he hasn't found his footing again. Like you said, post Endgame. Once you're in that world for so long, man, it's just like I could just go work with the Russos real quick. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just feel like he hasn't found that footing. And Red One is a definitely clear example of that too. So I just hope they start to pick better.
There's probably one silver lining to all of this. This movie is so shitty that this is probably going to get Chris Evans back to my beloved Steve Rogers in the MCU, and it'll probably get The Rock back to WWE Final Balls back faster, because they need some tender love and care from the fans, because they're not going to get it from this damn movie. So they need to go back to places that they know they're going to get a positive reception and get loving embraces from fan bases, because I don't get this. Like Chris Evans, like, that's a bit of a different story, even though there's, a lot of bad movies in there. But The Rock, I mean, because he is in so much control of his career, so much in control of his identity, and just like what he chooses to pour into, and the fact that he has become so gigantic. And where is his First Blood? Where is his Terminator? Where are these movies that, like, we can say, like, oh yeah, those are huge movies, those are crossover hits, and they're like really good too. And you can't, I'm sorry, you just can't put Fast and Furious in there. Like, that just doesn't count. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Smashing Machine, if that's like the big success for him. We just got announced a new Jumanji sequel is coming, so he is gonna probably still lean back and forth between those two worlds at worst, if not just kind of completely go back to the playbook. But it'll be interesting to see how that all shapes out. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new Christmas comedy film Red One. If you've checked it out, hit us up and let us know what you think.